Good afternoon, all. Our title, The Two Elements Have Nothing to Do with each other, but Fear and Godliness. Fear and godliness. The spirit of fear should not be taken to mean a demonic spirit always, but rather the fearful attitudes which are created by the roaring lion. Anybody that has viewed any of the things on television about animals that know that a lion only roars when it's already eaten. You hear a roar, it's already too late for you. When all else fails, though, the devil will attack us through a variety of circumstances which generate fear, all of which pertain to loss and destruction. Anything that within us generates fear, he'll jump on it immediately. Every time I have one of these seizures, which are terrible, and he floats that around in my mind for a few weeks, and I walk around thinking one will come at any time until I clamp down and clamp on my armor. This is real. And it's real. That's all I can say about it. It's real. The fear is real, but the protection is real also. Our weak spots are where he attacks us. And every one of us has different ones. He knows them all because he's observed us all our lives. Therefore, Yahweh has given Christians the armor and weapons of spiritual warfare. They are mighty through Yahweh to the pulling down of strongholds. Go through the Bible and look for all the commands from Yahweh, which begin with fear not. The Bible mentions two types, specific types of fear. The first type is beneficial and is to be encouraged. The second type is a detriment, as I explained, and is to become something that we overcome. Even justifiable fear has to be reined in. Otherwise, it will attack you mercilessly, and the fear will be the guiding point in your life. The first type of fear, though, is the fear of Yahweh. This type of fear does not necessarily mean to be afraid of something. Rather, it's reverence for his glory and power. However, it is also proper respect for his this word, wrath. That's the last thing that he will unleash on this earth. By the time his wrath comes, we will have been rewarded already. And whatever these people say, that this rapture and all of that, get that out of your head. The timing of it is the thing that they don't understand. And that's why they think it's coming when they think it will come. But it won't come that way. I'll get deeper into that as the holy days go through. However, it is also a total acknowledgement of all that Yahweh is, to fear him, which comes through knowing him and his attributes. Fear of Yahweh brings with it many blessings and benefits. It is the beginning of wisdom. Psalms, the 111th chapter, the 10th verse. Psalms 111:10. The fear of Yahweh is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all that do his commandments. His praise endureth forever. Only fools despise wisdom and discipline. This one will be found in Proverbs, the 1st chapter, the 7th verse. The fear of Yahweh is the beginning of knowledge. But fools despise wisdom and instruction. Furthermore, fear of Yahweh leads to life, rest, peace, and contentment. Proverbs, the 19th chapter, the 23rd verse. The fear of Yahweh tends to life, and he that has it shall abide satisfied. He shall not be visited with evil. It is the fountain of life. Proverbs 14, 27th verse. The fear of Yahweh is a fountain of life, to depart from the snares of death. And just before that, in 26, in the fear of Yahweh is strong confidence, and his children shall have a place of refuge. And these words have a meaning now that a lot of us have come to know without knowing it completely. How many in this room have survived this pandemic so far? That was an easy one. It didn't have to be, though. It didn't have to be. But the little things kind of get by us sometimes. And we take it for granted sometimes. I don't. Because something is happening. And a lot of it we were not in any way, shape, or form prepared for. Thus, one can see how fearing Yahweh should be encouraged. However, that second type of fear mentioned is not beneficial at all. This is that spirit of fear mentioned in 2 Timothy, the 1st chapter, 7th verse. For Yahweh has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. For Yahweh has, again, not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. However, sometimes we are afraid. Sometimes this spirit of fear overcomes us. And to overcome it, we need to trust in and love Yahweh completely. 1 John, the 4th chapter, the 18th verse. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear. But fear has to do with punishment. But the one who fears is not made perfect in love. No one is perfect, and Yahweh knows this. That is why he has liberally sprinkled encouragement against fear throughout the Bible. Beginning in the book of Genesis and continuing throughout the book of Revelation. Yahweh reminds us, and yet again and again and again, fear not. Fear not. Isaiah 41:10 encourages us. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not anxiously look about. For I am your Yahweh. I will strengthen you. Surely I will help you. Surely I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Often we fear the future and what will become of us. But Yeshua reminds us that Yahweh cares for the birds of the air. How much more will he provide for his children? Matthew 10:31. Don't be afraid. You are worth more than little sparrows. Just these few verses covers many different types of fear. Yahweh tells us not to be afraid of being alone. So many have died in this pandemic from their own hand. Of being too weak, of not being heard. Some, the only thing that triggered it was being alone. I've heard some that have given up their gender in this for no reason, just loneliness, more options. These admonishments continue throughout the Bible, covering the many aspects of this spirit of fear. In Psalms 56:11, the psalmist writes, "In Yahweh I will trust. I will not be afraid. What can man do to me that what Yahweh can not undo?" This is an awesome testimony to the power of trusting in Yahweh. Regardless of what happens, the psalmist will trust in Yahweh because he knows and understands the power of Yahweh. The key to overcoming fear, then, is total and complete trust in Yahweh. Trusting Yahweh is a refusal to give in to fear. It is a turning to Yahweh, even in the darkest times, and trusting Him to make things right. This trust comes from knowing Yahweh and knowing that He is good. As Job said, when he was experiencing some of the most difficult trials recorded in the Bible, we will find this in Job, the 13th chapter, the 15th verse. "Though he slay me, will I trust him? Once we have learned to put our total trust in Yahweh, we will no longer be so afraid of the things that come against us that we will be paralyzed by fear. I can't stand here and say you won't be afraid. But with that armor on, you can shake it off many times. Sometimes that's why He lets these things come at us, because we have to get that strength to fight them off on our own. Once we have learned to put our trust in Yahweh, we will no longer be afraid of the things that come against us. We will be like the psalmist who says with confidence in Psalms 5:11, "Let all who take refuge in you be glad. Let them ever sing for joy. Spread your protection over them, that those who love your name may rejoice in you." In these times, I don't even know what to call it anymore, because they've never told us right out what this is. The information is out there, but all the people that are telling it straight, they gag them as soon as they can. The doctors are taking their clues from the teleprompters like everybody else. I took a deep dive into this thing at first, and the deeper the dig, the deeper the dirt. At this point, I just stopped. Because you don't stop, they'll come after you. And the more they come after you, the closer you are to the truth. Actually, in the looking though, it found, in my mind anyway, a similarity to the deep dig I did on 911. Took years to get to the truth in that one. But at this point, I did something a little bit different. I let go of it and handed it off to Yahweh. And trusted in His word. Whatever they're doing, they will overstep their bounds if they haven't already. And He will step in and take control. In Romans 12, Paul describes what it means to be a living sacrifice. In short, it mostly has to do with setting ourselves aside to serve Yahweh, each other, and even our enemies in love. And that one is hard. That one is hard. Romans 12, first verse. I beseech you, therefore, brothers, by the mercies of Yahweh, to present your bodies a living sacrifice. All of a sudden, this is coming up just about every week. This is not by design. Not my design anyway. But it is designed. And I'm just going with it. Holy, pleasing to Yahweh, to present your bodies a living sacrifice, which is your reasonable service. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, in order to prove by you what is that good and pleasing and perfect will of Yahweh. Now, Paul turns to the issue of how believers who are saved by Yeshua's grace should interact with our present governments. He described the biblical doctrine of submission to human authorities, something Peter also teaches. In 1 Peter, the second verse, second chapter, the 13th verse. Then be in obedience to every ordinance of men, because of Yahweh, Yeshua, Messiah, whether to a king as supreme or to governors as sent by him for vengeance on evildoers, but for praise on well-doers. These days, we can't even tell the difference. 15. For such is the will of Yahweh, doing good to silence the ignorance of foolish men. As free, and not having freedom as a cover of evil, but as servants of Yahweh. Honor all, love the brotherhood, fear Yahweh, honor the king. Again, those in Messiah are called to themselves aside and to trust Yahweh to provide what is needed through those in authority. These days, that's a tough one. But we must do it, keeping the end in sight. And when it all comes to an end, we will win. And again, those in Yahweh, in Messiah, are called to set themselves aside. What you want isn't it. The ultimate plan is his. We don't see it clearly enough yet. He's weeding people out, whether we see it that way or not. He's weeding people out, and that's his job, not ours. Paul is clear that this applies to every person. He calls for us to be in submission to government authorities, though he does not say that we must obey them in all cases. Paul and the other apostles refused to obey commands from people in authority to stop preaching the gospel. For instance, Acts, the 5th chapter, the 25th verse. But one came reporting to them, saying, "Behold, the people that you put in prison are standing in the temple and teaching the people." 26. Then the commander went with the officers and brought them, not with force, for they feared the people, lest they should be stoned. That's the way the power balance should be. People shouldn't fear their government, but governments should fear their people. And the Bible enforces this right here, in case anybody gets up and says Ray is wrong. This is right here. Acts 5th chapter, 25th verse. Verse 26. Then the commander went with the officers and brought them, not with force, for they feared the people, lest they should be stoned. 27. And bringing them, they stood in the Sanhedrin. What? The Bible said it, not Ray. And the high priest asked them, saying, "Did we not strictly command you that you not teach in this name?" hey, the Sanhedrin is in cahoots with the government? Something wrong there. But a lot of this stuff got skipped over when we went through it in past places. I'm not going to do that to you. "28, saying, did we not strictly command you that you do not teach in this name? And behold, you have filled Jerusalem with your doctrine and intended to bring this man's blood on us." Where else? You did it. And Peter and the apostles answered and said, "We ought to obey Yahweh rather than men. The Yahweh of our fathers raised up Yeshua, whom you killed and hung on a tree. This one Yahweh has exalted to be a ruler and Messiah to his right hand in order to give repentance and remission of sins to Israel. And we are his witnesses of these things. And so also is the Holy Spirit, whom Yahweh has given to those who obey him." Repeat that. Whom Yahweh has given to those who what? Obey him. If you're going on the wrong day, you're not obeying him. You're not keeping the holy days, you're not obeying him. 33. But those hearing were cut to the heart, and they took counsel to kill them. Then there stood up in the Sanhedrin a Pharisee named Gamaliel. Only time I ever heard that name before, there was a homeless guy that used to hang out at the church we used to attend in Chicago. His name was Gamaliel. And the guy knew some word, but his problems were so difficult to overcome that nobody much could stand to talk to him for long. But the guy knew this book. But your mama give you a name like that, it doesn't come from nowhere. I bet you if you look around there enough, you'll find him. Next time I go around there, I'll try to do that. 34 again. Then there stood up in the Sanhedrin a Pharisee named Gamaliel, a doctor of the law, honored among all the people. And he commanded the apostles to be put aside a little space. Put them outside. We're going to talk about them. 35. And he said to them, "Men of Israel, take heed to yourselves what you intend to do regarding these men. For before these days, Theudas rose up, boasting himself to be somebody. A number of men, about 400, joined together with him, who was slain. And all, as many as obeyed him, were scattered and brought to nothing. After this one, Judas of Galilee rose up in the days of the registration. Good time to do it too. That registration was just the way to get money out of the people. Judas of Galilee rose up in the days of the registration and drew away considerable people after him. Like I said, that's a good time to do it because everybody knew that that registration was nothing but another tax. They got nothing for it. Read up on it. Yet that one perished, and all, as many as obeyed him, were scattered. And now I say to you, withdraw from these men and let them alone. For this counsel or this work is of men, it will come to nothing. But if it is of Yahweh, you cannot overthrow it, lest perhaps you be found even fighting against Yahweh. And they obeyed him, and calling the apostles, beating them, they commanded them not to speak in the name of Yeshua, and let them go. Then indeed they departed from the presence of the Sanhedrin, rejoicing. That they were counted worthy to be shamed for his name. And every day in the temple and from house to house, they did not cease teaching and preaching the gospel of Yeshua Messiah. They didn't stop. They did not stop. But I noticed something here. All of the teaching wasn't going on in the temple. There was a reason for that. The temple was pretty much bought off by the government. And a lot of people by that time, the true people of Yahweh and Yeshua, did it in their homes. Sound familiar? Again, they did not cease teaching and preaching the gospel of Yeshua Messiah. Why should we submit? Paul is clear. Every authority in the world was established by Yahweh. This would include, of course, good leaders, evil leaders, and everyone in between. Paul's instruction here, then, is not about blind nationalism or absolute obedience to men. Rather, it is a recognition that government in general is a legitimate authority, but the things that they are doing right now are not very legitimate. And that believers cannot use their faith as an excuse for civic lawlessness. Yahweh puts all leaders in place for the specific reasons Paul will describe in the following verses. We should remember that Paul is writing this letter to Christians in, of all places, Rome. The government of Rome ruled much of the known world at the time. Sound familiar? It was led by Emperor Nero from AD 54 to 68. Nero is famous for his cruel and unfair treatment of Christians, among other groups. We must not assume that Paul is writing these words lightly. He was aware of the implications of his teaching. This is why some Messianic and other leaders dislike Paul. But the thing is, this thinking is a rank betrayal of a lack of faith in the word of Yahweh in these instances. Jeremiah, the 8th chapter, the 12th verse. Were they ashamed when they had done an abomination? No. They were not at all ashamed, nor could they blush. Therefore they shall fall among those who fall. In the time of their visitation, they shall be cast down, says Yahweh. What is the time of visitation, by the way? That's the time he comes back here. During his wrath, by the way. Hebrews, the 10th chapter, the 30th verse. For we know him who has said, vengeance belongs to me. I will repay, says Elohim. And again, Yeshua shall judge his people. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living Elohim. But not so much if you faithfully obey his commandments and follow his way. The outcome will be different from you if you do his will. Psalms, the 91st chapter, the 2nd verse. I will say to Yahweh, you are my refuge and my fortress, my Elohim in whom I trust. For he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler, from the plague of destruction. With his feathers he will cover you, and under his wings you can take refuge. His faithfulness will be a shield and a buckler. You need not fear the terror of the night, or the arrow that flies by day, or the plague or pandemic that spreads in the darkness, or the destruction that devastates at noon. 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. And if it does, it harmlessly goes away if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Verse 8. You will only look with your eyes and see the punishment of the wicked. For you, O Yahweh, are my refuge. You have made the Most High your dwelling place. No harm will befall you, and no plague will come near your tent. Romans, the 8th chapter, the 18th verse. Romans, the 8th chapter, the 18th verse. For I consider that the sufferings of the present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory that is about to be revealed to us. For the eagerly expecting creation awaits eagerly the revelation of the sons of Yahweh. Who's that? That's us. For the creation has been subjected to futility. It wasn't made this way, not willingly, but because of the ones who subjected it in hope that the creation itself also will be set free from its servility to decay. That was what the demon did out there. All those empty planets you see all over the universe. One day they will sing in harmony with us. After they will be brought from decay to glory, into the glorious freedom of the children of Yahweh. Verse 22, for we know that the whole creation groans together and suffers agony together until now. Not only this, but we ourselves also, the first fruits of the Holy Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves while we await eagerly our adoption, the redemption of these bags of flesh, these bodies. For in hope we were saved. But hope that is seen is not hope. For who hopes for what he sees? But if we hope for what we do not see, we eagerly await it with patient endurance. And likewise, also, the Spirit helps us in our weakness, for we do not know how to pray as we ought to. But the Spirit himself intercedes for us with unexpressed groanings. You ever hear somebody in the corner just It's funny from up here. If you see it, it's not funny. It's not funny at all. You kind of get in there with them and get your own groan going. And the one who searches our hearts knows what the mindset of the Spirit is, because he intercedes on behalf of the saints according to the will of Elohim. And we know that all things work together for good for all those who love Yahweh and those who are called according to his purpose. Because those whom he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son. All those pictures out there. Look in the mirror sometimes. You'll see what he looks like. Not specifically, but generally. He doesn't look like that picture that your mom had in the back. I knew I was going to use it when I didn't write it down. I have his name here. Somewhere. I won't think of it before I finish, but ask me who that picture is of. I will tell you. And those whom he predestined, these he also called. And those whom he called, these he also justified. And those whom he justified, those he also glorified. What then shall we say about these things? If Yahweh is for us, who can be against us? Indeed, he who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, and that's when we were in our sins still. He gave him up for all of us. How will he be not also together with him freely give us all things? Those who will bring charges against Yahweh's elect, Yahweh is the one who justifies, who is the one who condemns. Messiah is the one who died. And more than that, who was raised, who is also at the right hand of Yahweh, who also intercedes for us in the heavenly. Not the temples down here, the heavenly temple above. There's some things that are not in that temple. And he already absolved those things. No more sacrifices. He was the last one. 35. Who will separate us from the love of Messiah? Will affliction or distress or persecution or hunger or lack of sufficient clothing or danger or the sword? Just as it is written, on account of you, we are being put to death the whole day long. We are considered as sheep for slaughter. Now, but in all these things, we prevail completely through the one who loved us. For I am convinced that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor rulers, evil or otherwise, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor any other created thing will be able to separate us from the love of Yahweh that is in Messiah Yeshua, our Master. Any questions or comments? Dwayne.
Yeah, in his list to R.Allan, there was a picture of Jesus supposedly with a lamb in one arm and a shepherd's crook in the other arm, but that was a picture from the temple of Jupiter Olympus regarding him as the good shepherd.
I can't think of that name.
What sign of it? The glow in the dark guy, I don't know.
No. I'll think of it. I've got it in my office. If I got it to go in there and cheat, I will do that. Any other? Perry?
My mom, when I was small, used to have a picture of it's called Jesus with the eyes that seem to follow you wherever you go, and the long dark hair. And it didn't dawn on me until I was really like 14 or 15 years old. Like, when you start reading the Bible, like, this is totally contrary to what the Hebrew culture was in the first century. You know, as in the book of Corinthians pointed out that it does not need you to teach yourself that a man wears his hair long. It's a sin unto it. So I look at it and thinking, well, it must be some Roman or German god that they had put up here and labeled it Yeshua or Jesus, because it's interesting. I was doing reading about Vicarage of Christ by Peter de Rosa. And he said that the first 400 years of Christianity, they would not have dared make a picture of Jesus. They would not have dared even put him on the cross or by a lamb or anything, because they considered it sacrilegious. They considered portraying Christ on the cross as his humiliation, not his salvation. But later, as the church progressed through the Dark Ages, they gradually put more and more emphasis on the crucifixion. They never put emphasis on the resurrection. They never put emphasis on the salvation or the future of Christ. They always either portray him as a baby in a manger or as someone hanging on a tree. And I believe the pictures that my mother had when I was a kid was like Simon Magnus, or could be Zeus. Who knows? Hermes. Could be anybody, but it's not exactly the Jesus of the first century. So Yeshua of the first century.
Thurman?
No.
Any other questions? Caesar Borgia. Caesar Borgia. He's the one that in that picture. His father was a big contributor to the Catholic Church back in the day. And they, as a payback to him, his father, he put up his son as the Son of God. That picture is as a man called Caesar Borgia, and any history book will tell you that. Most people don't ever come across that name, but if you put that picture into either your tablets, and you'll come up with that picture if you don't come up with that name also. That's who it is. It's not Jesus Christ. And there was a time when I wouldn't have been able to come up with that. And no matter how hard I tried. Some things are.
I was going to say that the Bible says that, there's no evidence of how Yeshua looked. Anywhere. And there's no pictures or drawings of him. So nobody knows how he really looked. But some of the things that we have of him out there, they show him with long hair. And his disciples with long hair when the Bible says a man shouldn't have long hair. Only women.
That's like they say that men haven't covered their heads, but most Messianics and even Jews, they have that yarmulke. That's a head covering. It's in my book. Dwayne.
I can't remember the name of the author. He wrote under the auspices of Emperor Constantine at about 350 AD. He wrote a book on the history of the church. And this is after the Catholic Church got going under his, he was not a Catholic himself, he worshiped the sun god until the day he died. But they found a drawing of Christ from that era, but it was, it was already 300 years too late, and it was just a charcoal scratching of the head, hair down to about here, about down to his earlobes, and the Roman style, and a short beard, rather thin. And that's the earliest one we've got, and there's not much to go on. He's probably going on somebody else's description, which has been reinterpreted several times.
Yep. The most popular one is that one of Caesar Borgia, but most people has that in their homes, but their mothers told them that was Jesus, and that's all they know. And you go at them with that, and they will attack you. Perry?
I just found out something. Caesar Borgia was actually the son of Pope Alexander VI, one of the Borgia popes of the Renaissance, who was known for his corruption, his councils, which sparked the Reformation to begin with.
Yep. No, it's very well known now. But they hadn't put up that piece about him he was being corrupt, but they didn't name his as a pope yet. But in the book I read anyway. But the information was out there. Perry?
Also, I found out the origin about the baby Jesus in the manger. It didn't start until about 1200s with Thomas Aquinas, who actually got some money from the church on how Christmas should be celebrated. Now, at that time, they didn't have Christ in the manger. They just simply knew that it was around December 25th, what they supposedly believed. So he got some money for the Pope, and then he actually kind of started up what would later become known as the Jesuit order, portrayed Jesus in a manger. Because at first, at Rome, they did not want that. They didn't want the portrayal of Jesus in a manger with animals and angels and three wise men and all this. But as money came into the church,
always, anything that you research now, always follow the money. That's the first commandment of any kind of research into the Bible. Follow the money. And you will find the guilty. And you better duck when you find it. Money has many friends. The truth has just one or two.
Yep.
Anything else?